Greetings and salutations, guys. Here's my review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. Full spoilers follow if you haven't seen it, so we're about to go into the spoiler zone. All right, we're there. And once again, the reminder that I have played the first game, I've watched the first season, but I didn't play the second game. So most of this is new to me. I was a little nervous about this episode only because I was worried we were going to get a little too repetitive here. We only have 7 episodes in the season. So to have another episode that's kind of Ellie and Dina traveling through Seattle and, you know, having some different encounters with both infected and these 2 different factions out there, I don't want it to feel too much of the same thing, especially because I know that they're splitting what was 1 game into 2 seasons of this show, so I don't want it to feel dragged out. So I thought this episode was very solid, but a little bit of a step back from what we've had the last couple weeks. But then by the end, I was pretty excited because there was just a lot of new information, and I definitely think we started to sort of shift forward in a big new way with some of the revelations and some of the things that changed by the end of the episode. First of all, we got this introduction here at the beginning of another new character, Elsie Park, played by Hettenine Park, an actress I know very well because I'm a huge Hannibal fan. If you haven't seen Hannibal, you really should. It's amazing. Also, Hettenine Park's character, I won't go into spoilers for that show, but she's involved in some pretty crazy Hannibal shenanigans, I'll just say, as that series goes on. But yeah, a really compelling scene here that she got explaining the situation and what happened to Leon. And I really liked how it was clear Leon was someone important to her. And I made the assumption that I'm guessing others might have, which is this was her lover or her husband, clearly someone she loved and cared about. But then it turned out to be her son. And that was a gut punch. I mean, it would have been a gut punch no matter what, that this is someone that clearly, she sort of sent in there on a mission and then didn't come back. But the fact that it is her son makes it just extra horrible. But yeah, I really like that we got sort of this perspective here. Again, this is a show that's doing a pretty good job of showing the different nuances to these characters and their motivations. I say except for the scars. I mean, when we met them, the group that got killed, they were portrayed pretty sympathetically as far as that father and daughter. But everything else we're seeing about them is just so sort of intense and culty. It's hard to get sort of behind them and what they're doing, but hopefully that can change as we go forward here. But yeah, Ellie and Dina, what I liked in this episode was they got to sort of talk out, I think maybe audience, not complaints, but anything you might note about what they're doing. When Dina said, well, what we're doing is really reckless, and talking about sort of all the dangers of what they're doing and how this is not a smart idea. This is one sort of purely motivated by this need for revenge. But I like that was just sort of verbalized. And then because Dina explained her backstory here, first of all, man, had to kill a guy who killed her mom and daughter when she was 8. That's harsh. But I should have said mom and sister because that's what actually happened. Sorry. But also her telling Ellie, look, if that guy had gotten away, I would never have stopped till I got him. So that gives extra incentive for her to want to help Ellie here. Besides the fact that she loves Ellie, she cared about Joel too. Now we understand that she can sort of put herself into Ellie's shoes in a very direct way. And I also liked that they talked about the fact that Joel had done something for Abby to come after him like this. And they don't know what it is. But, it's not like they're acting like, oh, he didn't do anything that this would have caused this. They understand that. They do talk about whatever it was, it couldn't have been deserving of that. And that's that interesting sort of, I think, a discussion that this show can open up, because Joel was the protagonist of this series, so we don't want something horrible to happen to him. But in this sort of heightened world and the situation, from Abby's perspective, does Joel not deserve what he got? And I think, yeah, and maybe he did. Again, I didn't want that to happen to him, but I do like that you can sort of take a step back and absorb that. But you can also completely understand why, for Ellie and Dina, they would say, no. In a world where we're all doing terrible things, in a world where we even talk openly about who's the first person you killed, and we know Joel must have done something terrible, that Abby wanted revenge. Whatever he couldn't have been that bad because we love Joel. And I think that those justifications make a lot of sense in this world, but it is intriguing to sort of ponder the perspectives here. And you have to wonder, would anything change if Dina knew that all of humanity could have been saved if Joel hadn't done what he'd done? Well, maybe still, yes, the answer is she'd still be Team Joel because she loves Ellie so much. But I don't know, other people in their lives might feel different. And I really like that as they're talking about the fact that they're being dumb. They are doing a dumb thing that has a really big chance of failing. Yet they're going to go forward because there's just this compulsion to, because of what happened to Joel. And, we understand that in this situation that would be amplified even more when you have so little to grab onto, that now you would feel like I have to get revenge for this person. Even if it means going through a building that you pretty much know has some infected in it. And what infected they were, because, the return of the smart infected that Ellie encountered early in the season, that was really creepy. Just, a really well done sequence, having them sort of on top of those crates, and the fact that at first it seemed like there was one, then two, then there was a bunch. I thought this was a really exciting, tense sequence. I was very happy, though, that Jesse showed up. He got a nice sort of heroic moment to save the day, but mostly because I wanted things to kind of get, shaken up a little more here. And I also didn't want to leave those characters behind fully. So Jesse is here. He says Tommy is here, who's not in the episode, but we know he's off screen, and presumably we'll see him. So glad to have those characters back in the mix and kind of get a little bit more of that group dynamic here that we saw glimpses of in Jackson. And also, just sort of maybe see where their heads at are a little more. They explained that they went on this mission just like the girls, without permission. This is all personally motivated, in this case to rescue people they care about and bring them back, even though I don't think it's going to be that simple. And then, the extra escalation of what's going on with the infected, with this reveal that it's in the air, at least in this basement of this hospital, which is a horrifying thought, right? Because if this isn't something that can be contained, and if it keeps growing, well, that's it, right? That's game over for humanity. And I am curious how that plays out. They mentioned specifically that this is where it all began. So then you go, okay, is this happening only here because it's sort of extra concentrated here? Or is it something that could just keep spreading and spreading and spreading? But I loved that sequence at the end when Ellie goes into the basement of the hospital, just because visually I thought it was really striking. From the first game into the first season, there's a great visual here when you see the sort of growth on the walls of this virus. But it got to sort of be at its biggest, amplified way in this basement. And I thought it was a really wonderful mixture of sort of the beautiful and the horrific, because it's sort of ghastly what's happening. And certainly when you see those people, including Elsie's son, that are now encased in the walls and it's kind of surrounded them, it's awful. It also evokes Aliens, obviously, the movie franchise, not just the concept of aliens, but also it's sort of that sort of lovely, sort of strange beauty to it. It reminded me actually of a lot of things on Hannibal, speaking of Hedonine Park's previous series. But great visual here, very striking and stirring. And then that face-off with Nora and Ellie, the fact that, Ellie wasn't going to back down, but also it's just a great moment as far as the realization from Nora of, again, I mentioned when Ellie saved Dina that it was almost like a superpower because she could block her and put her arm out and, use her the fact that she is immune. And that was, again, sort of the case here because Nora's like, you've killed us both. And Ellie can just be like, nope, I'm okay. You're not. But very intriguing to me, again, who doesn't know the full story here, when Ellie says she already knew what Joel did. Because I'm like, did she just figure it out because it was always something in the back of her mind? Or did he actually tell her? And they'd already revealed when they did press, when Joel was killed off and Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey and everyone involved did press, they did mention that we'd see Joel again this season in flashback. So Pedro Pascal popping up was not like a huge shock. But now I am curious. Okay, is this just going to be sort of a fanciful what if? Or is this a genuine memory? Are we going to see him actually tell her that this is exactly what happened? Or maybe he'll say enough that she can finally fully connect the dots she already kind of had. So obviously more Pedro Pascal is great. Not that the guy isn't plenty busy, but Joel looms over this series so much that it's great that he's going to still make some appearances here. I don't know if he'll make appearances past this season, but at least this season we get to see him again. What else? Well, we did, like I mentioned, we saw the scars more, but it was all sort of horrific. The disemboweling that we'd seen glimpses of last week. We know that this is just sort of their MO. I always chuckle a little in post-apocalyptic stories about how quickly it seems that something can happen, like with the scars, where it's like they've dropped all technology, and they carve scars into their face ritualistically, and the men shave their heads. And I'm like, well, man, like 25 years ago, it was Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were popular, and society was like a society that we can sort of think of strongly now. How could it happen so quickly? But then again, I do think about in the real world, cults rise up pretty quickly. So when you add in the post-apocalypse, maybe I'm a little more forgiving than I used to be about some of these things. When you see how some people are just like, that's it, I'm dropping it all. It's like Mad Max or all these other things. Are there some people just waiting, right? Oh, society fell. It's time to get insane and dress in whatever weird clothes I always wanted to. I can go with that. I think I can go with that. But I still do hope that we get to kind of know the scars more. Maybe get a couple of representatives here to show their side and kind of show where they're coming from. Because right now they are more of a sort of looming, creepy big bad along with, the infected versus getting to actually know the wolves more and sort of seeing a little more nuance to those characters. It felt like this episode is sort of, setting up the final 2 episodes of the season like it is. And I am glad that we're sort of moving forward in a more direct way. And so those are my thoughts on episode 5 here of Last of Us Season 2. What do you guys think? And if you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. All right, take care. Thanks.